This Halloween, the pretty girl next door wants to invite you in for a treat. Or a trick. Wish tale.
Hello, my missing ingredient.
Wish tale. See it with someone who doesn't bite. Hutch. The countdown to terror has begun.
The signal's getting stronger now. It won't be long.
Come quick! The monster done ate my pappy!
Do you really think this was a bear, Doc?
Highly unlikely.
First man on Mars. Once he was human.
There's something shiny in the rock. This is really starting to sting.
Now a bloodthirsty monster, killing and devouring the young. And not so innocent.
Well, take a look at this, huh?
I'm gonna blast the thing back to hell.
Oh, shit.
First man on Mars.
You mean there's aliens out here? Shit, I don't want to get ducted in anal.
This film is not rated. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Mike Friday Night Special. And boy, do we have a show for you tonight. Oh my God, doing that Warren book, The Empire of Monsters, got me kind of thinking back into the old Comic-Con and science fiction convention days. For me, that began in the late 70s and through the 80s into the 90s. And I realized just how much better those conventions were. Of course, largely they've become like, I don't know, photo op conventions, very much Hollywood oriented, Hollywood movie oriented. And apparently, though, from what I understand, this last Comic-Con in San Diego, the one of the big ones, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con, which took place in July, was largely not influenced by Hollywood. Apparently Hollywood had, kind of, I don't know why, maybe it's because of the strike, who knows? but not a lot of Hollywood movie action from what I understand, which is good because, it's called the San Diego Comic Con. Okay. Bring back the comic books and so forth, as far as I'm concerned, and put more of an emphasis on the comic book artists. It's Hollywood has just basically been using San Diego and a ton of other conventions as advertising tools. That's all they've been doing, really. So as far as the absence of Hollywood in these conventions, hopefully maybe that'll be a trend. That would be fantastic, But in any case, welcome to the show. And you just watched 3 trailers to 3 of my films. Yes, indeed. The first one, of course, was Witch Tales. And the second was Horror Anthology Movie Volume 1, which is renting fantastically on Amazon. I'm really pleased with the results there. And the third was, of course, First Man on Mars, which is currently on Blu-ray. Now, I am going to go to the comments now, of course, and see who's here. But first, what I want to do is drop a linky into the description, because you can get all of those films. You can either rent them or buy them at my website, horroranthologymovies.com. So there you go, folks. In any case, let's see who's cooking in the chat. Good Lord. It's Apex Comics. Hello, Apex. How you doing? Apex Comics says, I participated as Apex Graphics and hired 3 beautiful girls to portray Mongoose, Caracal, and Angel Fire, a.k.a. the Femme Fatale, Eugene, Oregon, 1999. Yes. Now, these are the types of stories. I love it. This occurred before the cosplay craze. Yeah. Okay. And we're going to get into that too. The whole thing with cosplay, which has a fascinating history, by the way. I don't know if you guys know it, but cosplay started back in the 1930s and basically was once again spearheaded by none other than Forrest J. Ackerman. But we'll get into that in a bit. But this is the type of thing. These are stories that I love to hear, as far as comic book conventions and so forth. If you got any, recollections of past comic book conventions or science fiction conventions, general genre conventions, please, give us the 411 in the chat. That would be greatly appreciated. We'd love to hear it. Thank you for that, Apex. That's an awesome little story there, a little anecdote. Michael Taylor is on the scene. Hello, Michael Taylor. Eric is here. Hello, Eric. How you doing? PBR Street Gang is also here. Hey. Hello, sir. Hi to all in chat. Hello, PBR Street Gang. Eric says, Witch Tales on Blu-ray on eBay. Thank you. Thank you for that, Eric. I greatly appreciate it. Folks, get yourself a copy. There's only like 9 left of the original 300. So they're going to be gone definitely by this Halloween. There's no doubt about it. We're now officially getting into Halloween season, folks. And people love their Halloween types of movies. And Witch Tales is precisely a Halloween film. It takes place on Halloween Eve. Okay, it's an anthology film. And your host is a sexy witch who introduces the 3 stories, which are, by the way, based upon pre-code horror comic book stories, okay, from the 1950s. And it all takes place on Halloween Eve. Oh, yes. So there you go with that. You want to get in the Halloween mood? Get yourself a copy of Witch Tales, okay? You shall not be disappointed. Eric says, hello to everyone in chat, the lurkers, the workers, and the smirkers. Meyer is on the scene. What's up, gentlemen and ladies. Eric says you can also watch Witch Tales on Amazon. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. My good God, Matt. And once again, there is my website, horroranthologymovies.com, where you can check out all of the films that I just showed you, the trailers thereof. Meyer says, hey, Eric, Witch Tales is fantastic. I recommend it. Well, there you go, folks. Another satisfied viewer of Witch Tales in the chat, for Christ's sake. PBR Street Gang says, just watched Phantasm on Tubi. It's movies like that make me jump for joy. I agree wholeheartedly. As a matter of fact, PBR Street Gang, it's a little recollection, a convention recollection. This just happened actually last year, 2022. I went to the, it was Jesus. I screwed that one up. This was more like 2019. This was pre-COVID. Went to a convention in Florida because I had a film showing there and I was doing a panel. And Don Coscarelli was there. He was one of the guests of honor, and he showed Phantasm in the new remastered 4K version, which was fantastic. I got to talk to Don for a short period of time, and that was awesome. Very casual setting, this convention. I believe it was Phantasm Orlando. That's what I'm pretty damn sure it was Phantasm Orlando. I don't know what the fuck happened with it. They were expecting thousands. I think they got 300 people for this convention. I'm not kidding you. And it was insane. They had Don Coscarelli, as I'm saying, he was all over the place. Showed Phantasm remastered. There was a live commentary, you buy a DVD or Blu-ray and it has the commentary. This one was live with 7 of the cast members of Return of the Living Dead commenting on the film Return of the Living Dead as they were showing it. And I got some video of that, and I got some video of Don Coscarelli. As a matter of fact, I'm sure it's in my, some of that's, yeah, it's got to be on the channel. If it's not, I'll get it up there. But this was recent, stuff. We are going way back. We're going back into the 20th century tonight, folks. And it's going to be a hoot. Michael Taylor says, I think Steranko still makes appearances at cons. He does. He's quite active. No doubt. I see him posting on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called. Eric says, the last con I attended was the Ocomic Con in Omaha in 2018. I had fun taking photos of a lot of cosplayers. They were happy to have me take photos. I was even introduced to lovely ladies there. Oh, yes. Good Lord, Matt. That's the way to go, Eric. That is the way to go, indeed. Apex says, Witch Tales, after it's gone 20 years later, a variant art cover illustrated by Horror Mike. It could. That could happen. Who knows, in 20 years, I don't know, people might just upload it into their brains or something, the way things are going. But, oh boy. Meyer says, I was lucky enough to watch a screening of Spider Baby with Sid Haig at a con in Sacramento some years ago. Excellent. Excellent. Sid Haig, the man, taken away from us too soon. There was a convention I went to, Days of the Dead convention. This was 2018, 2019. Once again, or yes, it had to have been 2019, I guess. But Sid Haig was, no, it had to have been 2018. Sid Haig was a regular. Let's put it that way. I forget when he passed away, but it must have been 2019, 2020, guys. Somewhere in there. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Here, let's take a look. I'm getting kind of screwy on the dates now. My mind ain't what it used to be. Or he died, September 21st, 2019. So it must have been 2018 when I was there. I was showing shit, man. Witch Tales. That was the year of showing Witch Tales at Days of the Dead Film Festival. In any case, and that's, once again, that is a total movie-oriented type of film festival. Some comic book dealers, not a lot, don't go to one of those expecting a lot of comic books. You're not going to find them. Even, I mean, well, how should I say this? It's the type of convention, if you love horror films and you want to take photos with your favorite actors type of thing from yesteryear. I mean, and when I say yesteryear, for them, it's like 70s, 80s, 90s primarily. That's how the Days of the Dead is. But in any case, guys, let's see. Meyer says this was 2012. Sid was running for president as a write-in. Yeah, that's awesome. He gave a political speech before the movie started and kept the mic and narrated the whole movie. Yes. Oh, God. There's a memory right there. That is just beautiful. That's a beautiful memory. Meyer. In any case, okay, guys. Look. Tonight, we are dialing it back. We're going back to the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. Okay. I've discovered just amazing stuff that blew my mind. And this is this video footage that you're going to see of conventions, primarily San Diego Comic-Con from back in the 1970s and 80s and 90s. Is newly uploaded. This stuff has not been online very long. So it's going to be, I've never seen it before, but I think you're going to be a little shocked, a little amazed, and perhaps even a little titillated with some of the cosplay that we're going to take a look at. Oh, yes. Who we got? I see we have been joined by Gratu, Hotel Orloff. Hello. How are you doing, my good man? So before getting into the video, though, as you can see, I've got Vampirella up there. This is the 1972 Comic Art Convention. And that's just a beautiful poster. I do want to show you some other stuff. Just a few photos before we get to the video. There we go. Now, this is a photo montage from the 1975 San Diego Comic-Con. Now, imagine this is like your average, San Diego Comic-Con back in the 70s. You got Jack Kirby and Jim Steranko on the top left, drawing live side by side during the convention. You got guests like Chuck Norris right there in the middle, Ray Bradbury on the right, Stan Lee, of course, moving down mid left. Then across, the founder of the San Diego Comic-Con, Shel Dorf. Okay. Of course, your banquet hall situation, Gil Kane and Will Eisner. For Christ's sake, right there. I mean, holy Toledo. Now that's a convention right there, folks. Now here's some random photos I grabbed that I thought you might get a kick out of. Oh, I guess that's as big as it gets. Are we seeing that? Yeah, that's pretty good. Now that's San Diego. And as you can see, it's the entry point. We got some vivacious vixens ready to go in. Pre-registered persons here, handwritten. There's somebody who, of course, drew Thor just for the entry poster. That's totally awesome. Back in the day, folks, all DIY. And of course, that is Jack Kirby on the left, Stan Lee on the right. San Diego Comic-Con. Once again, I want to say this was probably, I don't know, sometime between 75 and 80. Somewhere in there. Just a typical photo from a convention. Some hucksters, dealers in the room. Right there. That is just classic. I am digging the hell out of these. Some of these photos are, there we go. There we go. There's Kirby live at a Comic-Con, probably San Diego, once again, drawing the Thing for an audience. Just fantastic. I mean, cosplay, folks. We got a werewolf and a maiden right there. Now, this could have been also from a science fiction convention back in the 70s. I am mixing it up a bit. I attended a lot of science fiction conventions, world cons. I think the first convention I ever went to was IguanaCon 1978. I was 16 years old. Harlan Ellison was the guest of honor. There were rumors that he had thrown a rabid fan down an elevator shaft. Of course, that rumor was untrue, or they just never found the body. One of the two. Did we get? Yeah, we did that one. All right. I'm backtracking. There we go. Now, this is 1980s. A luscious lady right there. Cosplayer from the 1980s. Quite nice indeed. It only says Marvel 1980s on it. But that's pretty slick. Jeez, please. Now check it out. It's that chick. I keep forgetting her name. Of course, she's in the Star Trek getup. And Pettyjohn, was that her name? I think Angelique Pettyjohn. And so here she is at a convention. Of course, in that, I mean, this is back in the 70s. We're talking maximum here, mid 70s. As she, she presents herself as the character in the Star Trek episode. Amok Time, was that it? I don't know. One of those. But in any case, still looking quite good indeed. I'm back in the day. '80s. Two very, very comely gals hanging out in the dealer's room during a 1980 convention. Probably mid to late 80s, I'm going to say. It's looking like it. Very nice indeed. Very nice. Now, this is something that, for instance, DC put out when they were kind of doing some publicity for, they were looking for talent, basically. That was it. And they had Joe Orlando, as of course at the time was the managing editor of DC Comics. appearing at the conventions in person to view the artist portfolios. It says, you can draw us. We're looking for fresh new art talent. One lucky artist will be hired for DC's 1981 Summer Artist Apprentice job in New York City. It could be you. And they list the conventions. So we're talking 1981 Atlanta Con, New York Comic Con, of course, Chicago Con, San Diego Con. You know, by now things are in full swing, you know, but obviously it's 1981. The emphasis is totally on comic books and comic book artists. That's it. Of course, there are the movies, there's the cosplay and so forth, but the absolute, I mean, they're real comic book conventions. That's what's going on here, folks. Not Hollywood, you know, advertisements, which is what they became. Here we have a chick as Superwoman, somewhat scantily clad there. Definitely mid-70s, I want to say. Dig that wallpaper as well. Classic scene. This could very well be from like an early to mid 70s San Diego Comic Con. Let me see if I can blow this up at least a little larger. There we go. It is so hilarious. There we go. Well, that's better. So we got Darth Vader, this other guy on the right, hanging out near the pool, obviously, with some people talking in the background. I mean, that just describes what I saw all the time going to these conventions, late 70s into the 80s, especially this type of thing, you know, which was totally laid back. People are just hanging out wherever, you know. That was pretty much the deal with it. Just an awesome time. Like, it didn't matter. Like, you could go to a comic convention with 200 people or 5,000 people, you know, or a science fiction convention, the same thing. Didn't matter. You know, it was more of a communal thing, really. You know, where people would hang out. They would, of course, I'm sure there's still like, you know, room parties and shit like that. But there were the pool parties, of course, you know, and people would just kind of hang out and do their thing. But this is just a classic shot. I had to end out the photos with this particular photo because it just sums up that kind of, I don't know, that laid back feeling that the Comic Cons used to have. Okay, we've got a few more people that have chimed in. Eric says, I guess that's as big as it gets. Or Mike 8423. You can quote me on that. Michael Taylor says, wow, Kirby drawing the Thing in person. Fantastic. 4. Indeed. Michael Taylor. Yeah, it's just amazing, isn't it? It's like that. And what's really funny, guys, is that I was living in Southern California, late 70s, all the way through to 1990. I was living in Orange County and Los Angeles County. And I never went to the San Diego Comic Con. There you go. I went to tons of other conventions in Los Angeles, you know, in Orange County, in Arizona, all over even Pittsburgh, man, you know, shit. but I never ended up going to a San Diego con. And of course, the heyday of those conventions was the 70s and 80s. There's no doubt about it. I guess the 90s as well, as we will see in the videos. But yeah, stuff like that where you've got like Jack Kirby just doing stuff and he's standing next to Steranko and Steranko's drawing his stuff. Jeez Louise, man. And as Michael Taylor said, Steranko's still doing it. He's still attending conventions. You know, the guy is he's still, you know, doing it to it, folks. Eric says, I've only attended a few cons, but had fun at each one. Yeah. And that's the thing, man. Have fun at the cons. Mike said, this is from YouTube. Michael Taylor. Now, these are scattered, Michael Taylor, from all over the place. I just kind of like did searches, you know, and found them. So Eric says Angelique Pettyjohn was the Star Trek actress. Yes, that's her. That was her in the photo, folks. Looking good. Many years later, you know, at that convention. That may have even been a Star Trek convention, folks. Michael Taylor, imagine taking videos or pictures of Kirby drawing the thing at that con. Yeah, you know, and one thing that I never did was take photos. I wasn't one of those photo taking guys. It just never happened. I never carried a camera with me back in the day. We're talking late 70s, 80s, even the 90s. I had a Super 8 camera. There's no freaking way I was going to walk around a convention with a Super 8 camera, even though now I regret it because I could have gotten great Super 8 footage of various artists doing their thing, cosplayers and all that shit on Super 8 film. But it would have been an extremely expensive prospect, folks. Therein lies the problem. Back in the pre-digital age, whoo, man, movie film added up real quick. Hello, Joe. How are you doing? Good to see you again. Someone pummel those nerds. Whoa. Yeah. Shadowhawk is on the scene. Hail horror horde. Arr. Hello, Shadowhawk. How you doing? All right, guys. Okay, so here's the thing. I know you guys all have memories. Memories like the twisted corner of my dark mind. Something like that. In any case, you got convention memories, right? And I've got convention video right here. We're going to take, we're talking about going back from, I believe, 1974 all the way at least to 1999, the year 2000. So it's actually a lot of video, really. I think it's like 30 to 40 minutes in total length. And so you're going to see things in this video where your jaw is going to drop. You might get a stiffy. I don't know. But in any case, as you're watching the video, I'm going to try to keep tabs on the chat, because if at any time you want me to stop and go back so you can see something to believe it, to believe your Vulcan eyes, then we'll stop and we'll take a look at it and talk about it, because some of the stuff you're going to see tonight is going to blow your freaking mind. That is, I guarantee you, you're going to flip the hell out. Okay. Oh God. Here we go, folks. Oh, yes. We're about to dive into that thing. Freeze and enhance. As Meyer says, yes, freeze and enhance. You're gonna be asking me, okay? And I'm going to be glad to do that for you. Let's see oh yeah, here we go. And also too, I want to say, for anybody that's in the chat that wants to come on board. I put the link in the chat, the StreamYard, you know, in case you want to do some additional commentary on this, because man, this is going to trip you out. Okay, first off, I want to say tremendous thanks, because most of this video was collated by CBS News Channel 8, local affiliate in San Diego. This is brand new stuff, folks. They just uploaded this like 10 days ago. It is new shit. And I am so glad they did. You know, it's the local affiliates that do the really great stuff. The MSM generally, not so much. But local affiliates can give you really great stuff. And I think Channel 8 gave us just a beautiful, this is something, look, you can archive this. You know, this is something for the ages. And before I forget, let me see something here, folks. All right. I dropped this link in the chat. It's the Comic-Con book, See You at San Diego, An Oral History of Comic-Con Fandom and Triumph of Geek Culture. Check it out. It's a book. I do not have it. Okay, I plan on getting it because it looks freaking awesome. It looks like there's a lot of Jack Kirby. And of course, needless to say, Stan Lee and other people. Yeah, Apex, come aboard, man. Get on the scene. Or one of you guys. Gratu? Good Lord. We can kick around some. I'm sure that some of us have some similar stories to tell. Because as I said, the first convention I believe I ever attended was 1978. I was 16, and that was World Science Fiction Convention at GuanaCon in Arizona. And then just, I don't know, a few dozen conventions over the next 20 years of various sizes and whatnot. But yeah, that's one thing too, folks. No Tubi. No Tubi tonight. This is pure convention joy. Okay. Tubi next week, and we'll have a jam-packed Tubi show. But we're going full convention mode. We're taking a little trip back. Take a trip back with me now. Okay, to the 20th century, folks.
Watching CBS 8 Plus, and welcome to this throwback special. I'm Carlo Cicchetto. We've been covering San Diego for more than 70 years now and have had a front row in watching it grow and change. In this throwback special, we dove into our CBS 8 archives and found something as synonymous with San Diego as fish tacos, the zoo, and Ron Burgundy. It's Comic-Con. We know it as the biggest and longest running pop culture convention and celebration in the world. And its humble beginnings were actually seated in the Big Apple. But as it branched out, embracing Hollywood and its blockbuster machine, its founder felt that it strayed too far from its roots. Jeff Zevley starts us out with his story on comic book superfan Shel Dorf.
Sheldorf.
The year was 1970 when a 37-year-old Southern California transplant from Detroit moved here to San Diego and had a vision. Before 130,000 people showed up to Comic-Con, 300 diehards gathered in the basement of the U.S. Grand Hotel 41 years ago for the very first show.
Shel was a guy who wanted to live on the wild side.
Comic book dealer Terry Stroud says his buddy Shel Dorf waltzed into San Diego and wasn't afraid to dream big.
I think he was influenced by the New York shows.
Shel Dorf was a fierce fan of comic books, so he rallied his closest friends to organize the first Comic-Con in 1970.
I've been to every one of them.
Comic book history for the very first show.
Sorry about that.
Shell
I'm
was
going
a
back.
guy who wanted to live on the wild side.
Comic book dealer Terry Stroud says his buddy Shel Dorf waltzed into San Diego and wasn't afraid to dream big.
I think he was influenced by the New York shows.
Shel Dorf was a fierce fan of comic books, so he rallied his closest friends to
Now, folks, check out the comic books that are simply bagged and laying on a table. Okay, now this is 1970s San Diego Comic-Con. And you will notice some primo issues of Flash, Marvel comics from the 1940s, right there, Shadow comics from the 1940s. And they're just laid out on some dealer's table. You would never find that. Of course, you know how it goes now. The drill. They're on a wall behind the dealer's table, behind the dealers themselves. They're on a wall. Half of them, or at least half of them are CGC. That's the first thing that shocked the shit out of me. I was just like, holy crap, there's freaking amazing. I mean, I just kind of sum up those comics, those early Marvels right there. Holy crap, from the 1940s. There's Submariner. But that's just an intro, folks. That's just a little bit of a taste as to what's going to come here.
organized the first Comic-Con in 1970.
I've been to every one of them.
Comic book historian Robert Bierbaum is one of 4 people who's attended every single show. Robert says Shell stopped going to Comic-Con because he thought it grew too big and strayed from its roots.
All the big Hollywood studios are simply using this as a vehicle with which to promote, make millions and millions of dollars off of this stuff, and you forget the essence of why did you go to the movie theater in the first place?
Shell Door.
And there you go. Right on, hits it right on the head. And I appreciate the fact that CBS, the local affiliate, actually allowed that footage of the guy saying it. That was it. It became a Hollywood advertisement. That's basically what happened. Shel Dorf, the guy that created it, realized that it got way too big. You know, those old days at the El Cortez Hotel, which we will be getting to after this video, were long gone. And it had become like this monster, you know. So here we go.
Dorf died last November from complications related to diabetes, but he'll always be remembered for helping to launch hundreds of comic book careers.
I came to San Diego in 1975.
Dave Scroggie has made a living off the industry his dear friend Shell helped put on the map, and for that, he'll always be grateful. Where would your career have been without Shel Dorf?
Oh, that's hard to say. Maybe I'd still be cooking in restaurants. My God, it's an impossible question to answer.
All right, in the beginning, back in the 1970s, Comic-Con was very much a celebration of comics and the artists who brought them to life. Where else could you meet the man who's created Bugs Bunny? It was also a chance to find out whether sci-fi legend author Ray Bradbury thought that comics were actually art. By the end of the decade, the prices on collector's editions of comics were starting to rise to a whole new stratosphere, and the event itself.
Okay, folks, here we go. Now check that More Fun Comics with the classic.
It was just starting to feel.
There it is. That is now what they say there. It's More Fun Comics, classic Spectre cover. And it says Near Mint Plus. Now, when they say Near Mint Plus in the 70s, it's hard to say, but I would assume it's got to be at least a 9.4, 9.6. $1,200. Oh, God. Lordy. Oh, Lordy. Geez Louise. Oh, you'll see some. Michael Taylor, you shall see some prices. You'll see some more and your jaw will drop. I guarantee you.
The power of the Force.
This year's conclave has a little of everything to offer, with discussions and exhibits focusing on comic books, comic strips, science fiction, fantasy, and the age of chivalry. Guest speaker for the three-day event is former San Diegan Bob Clampett, creator of the popular cartoon characters Bugs Bunny, Tweety Pie, and Cecil the C6 Sea Serpent. Clampett explained the sources of inspiration for those characters.
Well, ideas come from many ways. For example, say on Bugs Bunny's or on Elmer Fudd's voice. When I was working on the first Merry Melody and Looney Tunes, my boss went on a rabbit hunt, Rudy Ising. We made some sketches of the rabbit outwitting you, and after that I put on the drawing Woody Wabbit. And after that I made a series of drawings of Woody Wabbit, this little rabbit. Several years later, when I was writing the first Bugs Bunny story, I used some of those gags, and then when Tex Avery and I were making about the fourth Bugs Bunny picture, I was telling him about the Woody Wabbit gags, and the word Wabbit stuck in our mind, and it made us think of using Arthur Q. Bryant on the voice, and that's where the "I'm looking for a Wittagoy Wabbit" came from.
What about the idea for Tweety Pie?
Well, actually, the design of Tweety was. I had a baby picture my mother had up when I was a child of me in the nude with big blue eyes, the little cheeks, and nothing on. I always hated that, and so when I designed Tweety the first time, it was actually a satire on my own baby picture.
What about Cecil? You're famous for Beanie and Cecil. What about those ideas?
Well, Cecil, when I was still in school, I saw a movie of prehistoric monsters that were animated by Willis O'Brien, and I was so impressed with it that I went home and I tried to do something with it, and I made some sketches, and then with my mother's help, I made the first sock Cecil. Thank you.
Clampett.
Michael Taylor says, I would love to see the prices on those books. That 1,200 is probably triple. Yeah. Now add a few more digits onto that. Michael Taylor. Eric Boyd, yes. I was curious as well, just researched last copy near that grade sold for $38,000 USD in 2016. I guarantee it's 50 grand now. 50 freaking grand. And I'm going to shock you with a couple of other things after this video. Remember those suspense comics that I showed you that Bud Plant is selling the facsimile versions of? Holy grail. Okay, we're going to take a look at that after this video. Meyer says Bob Clampett had great hair. Yes. Yeah, that's about the best you could buy, I'm sure. But here we go, folks. Now, just starting off, can you imagine? This is 1972 Comic-Con. Geez Louise, it's just hard to believe. The video quality, a lot of it is excellent, considering it's early to mid-70s at this point. I'm just astounded. That interview with Bob Clampett, man, is clean as a whistle.
And other noted cartoonists will be taking part in discussions and lectures through
Look
Sunday.
Look at those comics piled up on the table. Oh, God. Holy Toledo.
Cartoon and science fiction movies will also be shown during the convention. This is Maurice Luque, TV8 News.
August 1st of 1974, devotees of comic strips and comic books gathered in a convention at El Cortez Hotel, where one of the major attractions was the famous writer, Ray Bradbury. He was one of America's leading science fiction authors, but also a poet, novelist, playwright, essayist, and creator of musical productions. Bradbury was a fan of the comics from his boyhood on. Our Harold Keene asked him if he considered comic books and newspaper comic strips to be genuine American art forms. Bradbury said he was planning to adapt some of his short stories into a comic magazine of his own.
The Parisians and the Italians and the New York intellectuals, with someone as bad as Roy Lichtenstein, who is really a dreadful artist, doing all the worst things. He's imitating the worst comic strips. He has no taste. Are discovering comic strips, you know. So these dumbbells, you know, come along and try to tell us what we knew intuitively when we were children. That this is a loving art form, and it represents the secret wishes of the men and the women who read it.
The San Diego Convention.
See, no love lost for Roy Lichtenstein right there. Bradbury just fucking tore that guy a new one. This is hilarious. And look back there, folks. There's a sign for Pacific Comics. 1975. Holy shit.
Opened yesterday, and already it's in high gear. Shel Dorf, founder of the local get-together of comic book buffs, says this week may break all attendance records. Superheroes are everywhere, but so are customers. And that's one major reason for the convention: share and share alike. For a profit, of course. If a 1946 issue of Donald Duck in fine condition can bring $150, it's only natural that the first Donald Duck comic, drawn by artist Carl Bark in 1942, would go for just $850. Bill Emerson says he came all the way from New York, and this...
Now, I don't know what that first Donald Duck is going for now, but it ain't $850. I can guarantee you. I don't know if anybody's familiar with the prices on those, but geez, man. Now it's 1975. Okay, we're moving through time.
Issue is a duplicate in his collection.
Look at that
That's
dealer's
what customers
room.
and dealers stress: age and condition. It's almost like being at a stamp collector's convention. There's even a catalog, and books are rated good, fine, or mint, and that could push the price from $350 to $900. Star Trekkies can have
$350 to $900. Oh yes. Oh God. It gets better, folks.
a ball. Captain Kirk and Dr. Spock are big as life, and the rest of the crew abounds on buttons, magazines, newspapers, even books. Remember The Hobbit, the Tolkien classic? Dwarves, trolls, and Smaug the Golden Dragon come alive under the skillful brush of Louis Gianolis. There's something for everyone who's ever read a comic book, from big little books of the 30s to Superman that still ranks #1 today. Jim Gordon, TV8 Action News at the El Cortez. The convention offers many enthusiasts.
This is now 1979.
The chance to buy vintage comic books. Those that appeared first back in the late 30s are considered from the golden age. They command prices from $100 to several $1,000s.
Okay, now that's Detective Comics from March of 1937. And it says very fine. #1, $1,100. Oh my God.
It's incredible since they only cost 10 cents before 1961.
There's All-Star Comics #3. Holy Toledo. There's Batman. Now, I can't read that price.
Batman #9 in mint condition costs $250.
There you go. Batman #9, mint condition, $250, folks.
And expect to pay $250 for Flash Comics #2. The
Holy Toledo.
price jumps sharply for the August 1939 edition of Action Comics, $700. Throughout the exhibit sales area, a number of slideshows tell the story of comic strips, their creators, and characters. Ernie Chan draws Conan the Barbarian. A self-taught artist, Chan says comics are popular because of the variety of subjects they present, and it's a fun experience. On the other side, Faye Gates, a convention board member, would like better representation for women in the comics and behind the drawing boards. Convention organizers agree that science fiction has given comics a shot in the arm, and Star Wars made moviegoers stop to buy comics of the same name. But it's the fun of real space characters and toy ones that captures the imagination of all ages. With remote control in hand, you too can beep your way into a war on a distant planet and be home in time for dinner. Jim Gordon, News 8, the Community Concourse.
About the time of Sheldorf's death in 2009, the late Richard Alf, who helped co-found Comic-Con, told us he couldn't believe it when Shel convinced Ray Bradbury, who you saw there, to waive his $5,000 speaking fee to appear at the convention, which was billed as a benefit for the public. By the 1980s, we were starting to see more science fiction in the world of comics and in the movies. We also saw more actors become stars on the silver screen portraying comic book heroes, including a barbarian who would eventually become our governor. The costumes at the con were becoming more common and more extravagant every year, and newfangled things like video games
check it out,
were working their way onto the convention floor. One constant was growth. By 1985, about 5,000 people were coming. By '89, they doubled that number. If only they knew that they wouldn't even be a bad day by today's
yes, a comely maiden
standards.
Years ago, a dime gave a kid all sorts of pleasure. That's what a classic comic book used.
Check out those Action Comics. Holy Toledo. Rex, of course. Hi.
To cost. Today, after seeing what some of these comics are selling for, you shouldn't be surprised at the price of gold. It's not unusual to find comics priced at $6 to $8.
Now that's Submariner and the Angel comic. Definitely not what, mid 1944, 1943, somewhere in there. It looks like issue number 1 at $750. This is 1980, folks.
$800. The current wave of science fiction movies and the comic industry seem to be helping each other.
This is the newest addition to the comic industry, a whole new language inside. But really, comic conventions deal with nostalgia. And while it's true that comic books cannot speak, you can find out how people talked, say in 1946.
This is an issue of Willie Comics, and you can almost hear the talk of 1946. Golly, I'm late. Have a swell time. Jeepers, holding hands in broad daylight? Shucks, Gene. Boy, it's keen. John Kalia, News 8, downtown.
Talk about a way to escape reality for a while. The annual comic convention offered plenty of out-of-this-world excitement, including far-out comic books, souvenirs, and even futuristic-looking Star Wars computer games. Many were there just to expand their comic book collections, while others were there just to gaze at the galaxy of characters on hand.
Some of them are weird, some of them are pretty nice, and I'm just pretty serious about it. I don't go around putting crazy get-ups on and coming down here like some people do, but if that's what they want to do, that's fine.
One woman was even a little miffed that the convention didn't offer more Rocky and Bullwinkle comic books.
Well, I feel put upon. I really do. I flew in here, but I couldn't carry that money under my arm. Yeah, I would kind of like to see it.
So if you missed all this madness, don't despair. They'll all be back at the same bad place, same bad day. Jesse Macias, News 8, downtown San Diego. It's hard to believe that a dozen of these conventions have already passed through San Diego. The 1981 edition will be at the San Diego Convention Center through Sunday. It's open to the public and other creatures who might wander in from distant galaxies.
It's a little bit nostalgia, a little bit science fiction, fantasy, horror type. It's really a popular art festival. It gathers people who appreciate the popular art and just kind of draws them all together in one place.
Sellers, buyers, and traders were out in force, flashing plenty of green for various comic books.
Some Fantastic Fours, some Daredevils, and X-Men and Star Wars, and some magazines too.
How much?
$17 together.
One seller parted with a 41-year-old comic book. Price?
$1,200 in cash, which is a considerable investment potential increase from the original dime in 1940.
And if you want more than just comic books, there will be guest speakers and movies throughout the 4-day convention. Jesse Macias, News 8, downtown San Diego.
The comic book titles
Tale of the Crypt, Iron Man, creepy. As far as these people are concerned.
Tale of the Crypt. Yes, I love it.
That's literary greatness. Mention a comic book at some boring cocktail party in Rancho Bernardo, and you're branded a nut. No need to hide your identity here. You're among friends. Much of what appears between the pages of comic books has
We'll have to
Iron
take a
Man,
look-see back.
creepy. As far as these people are concerned, that's literary greatness. Mention a comic book at some boring cocktail party in Rancho Bernardo, and you're branded a nut. No need to hide your identity here. You're among friends.
Oh, shit. All right.
Iron Man, creepy. As far as these people are concerned, that's literary greatness. Mention a comic book at some boring cocktail party in Rancho Bernardo, and you're branded a nut. No need to hide your identity here. You're among...
I didn't know there was 3D back in the 1980s, early 80s. I guess there was, though, as evidenced here. Good Lord.
Friends. Much of what appears between the pages of comic books has been used as movie material. The Conan adventure is now into its second feature film. It began in the mind of Robert Howard. Tragically, a troubled mind. After 23 books, Howard killed himself. Today, Conan is in the hands of Roy Thomas of Marvel Comics, who finds one part of Conan's creation fascinating.
It's interesting that Howard never describes Conan's facial features, because I think he wanted the reader to put his own face in there.
Readers who see themselves in Conan's face are precisely the people Richard Fleischer, the director of the new Conan film, had in mind when the movie was made.
Even the locations we've always called Conan country, because certain areas have the Conan look. Everything is angled for the Conan fan.
Conan and all of these comics are fantasy adventure. But at the comic convention in San Diego today, there was at least one moment of doubt. This looked like a character who stepped out of the pages briefly to check the comics for accuracy.
Yes, fans, a full-blown invasion of wild creatures has arrived at the community concourse for the
1985, folks.
Annual comic convention. And you're right, sponsors tell us this year's convention is bigger and better than ever. For lovers of comic books, movie posters, and other assorted pieces of trivia, this is paradise.
Zombies of the
convention attracts about 5,000 people over a 4-day period. And though a majority of those people are interested in comic books, a lot of those people are also interested in film and whatnot. So we're not just a comic book convention, we're really a lot more.
The weekend extravaganza is luring people from as far away as Yorba Linda.
I've picked up, these are mostly first issues, things that I've needed to complete my collections.
Rocketeer.
And I'm also looking around for the artists and writers to get these things autographed. Then they're worth more when I decide to sell them, if I decide to sell them, which I won't.
What do you think about all the people that are here? Some of them seem a little on the strange side.
Classic nerd.
Definitely. You take it with a grain of salt when you've been living with a comic collector for the last 4 years.
Uh-oh. One of the big attractions is the Robotech comics and cartoons.
It's an amazing story that deals with people's life and death, that shows people getting married, having children, characters are dying, something that's unique and something that you don't see on television in the children's programming area.
The convention is the largest of its kind in the U.S., a 4-day gathering now in its 20th year. And at this event, the characters aren't just in the comic books. Some, like Devin Folk, dress the part. Have you been having a good time today?
I sure have.
The convention has been called the Cannes Festival of Comics.
I know.
Last year attracting 10,000 fans and industry people and who knows how many comic books. But it seemed like millions, standbys like Batman, Superman, Bugs Bunny. And how about this vintage copy of Archie from 1956? It was 10 cents then, $8 now. Along with the old, there's the new, like a comic book called Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Very big with little kids. Kevin Eastman is co-creator.
All we ever wanted to do was draw comic books. That was all we'd ever wanted to do, and we had no idea. I mean, there's, it's as baffling to us as probably a lot of people, what makes them a success.
The convention is a chance to meet established comic book artists and perhaps would-be artists Comic book companies are always looking for talent.
I just talked to a couple today that have a lot of potential, and they're going to send me some stuff, and we'll filter it through the editors and see what happens.
While some of this seems silly, there's a serious purpose here, promoting comic books as art.
It's a true American art form, and it really is. You know, you look at...
Now, who is that drawing that? I swear to God, it looks very familiar. But they don't really... It kind of looks like Swamp Thing. But they never reveal the artist's name.
The range of stuff, you know, from the most, you know, like an Archie comic to graphic novels today that are, you know, bordering on science fiction.
But perhaps more than anything else, it's a chance to be a kid again. Do you think you'll ever grow up?
Never. No, I'm a big kid now. I still buy toys. I spend most of the morning buying comics and things that, you know, it's my inspiration. And so I am a big kid.
He could buy a lot of toys. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles turned into a behemoth, of course, with the franchise's 7th movie set for release in the summer of 2023. As Comic-Con moved into the 90s, it had leveled up from a niche gathering to a pop culture mainstay. And talk about leveling up, Matt Groening, the man behind The Simpsons, was in to celebrate Bart and family while reminiscing on his time as a struggling comic artist in the 1980s. The con was also transforming into movie memorabilia central, where sometimes imperfection brought a bigger price. And Gen X was coming of age by the end of the decade, flexing its very edgy cultural muscles.
Hi, caramba.
Will success spoil Bart Simpson? Well, he's probably spoiled enough. But what about the man who created him? The man whose simple drawings used to be reserved for just newspapers, but now spend Sunday night in millions and millions of homes.
Before, my fans had to be able to read to enjoy my comics, and now they can just turn on a knob and enjoy my cartoons with The Simpsons. So it's a slightly wider ranging audience. I have 3-year-olds tugging at my pant leg for autographs.
The autograph seekers today come from people attending.
Check that out. There you go. This guy's he's just casually showing Marvel and I'm assuming that's the original Marvel comics.
The 21st.
That's totally insane. No price on it though. Crap.
Audience. I have 3-year-olds tugging at my pant leg for autographs.
The autograph seekers today come from people attending.
That is just insane. I wonder what the hell they were getting for that one.
Ending the 21st annual San Diego Comic Convention, a collection of comic book and cartoon fans. Matt Groening says he started coming to the comic convention 10 years ago as a struggling cartoonist. No one paid much attention to him then. They do now.
He used to show up, and I used to be the guy with the portfolio full of badly drawn doodles and looking for a job. And now it's the tables are turned. Kids are coming up to me saying, "How can I break into cartooning?"
Yes, Meyer, but my point is that comic books bolted up in price from this period of time to today at a far more rapid rate than cars have, by leagues ahead. That's my point, which is correct. Because if you got a comic that cost a dime that was worth $1,200 in 1980, that is now worth $60,000 in 2023, that is leagues above what a car, comparing car costs, would be. Okay.
Well, today, Matt Groening has broken into cartooning big time, attracting fans from the convention and covering America with T-shirts and images of Bart and the family Simpson. Will Groening ever get tired of this little spike-headed hero?
I hope a picture of Bart isn't on my tombstone. Let me put it that way.
Bob Hansen, News 8 at the Convention Center.
No, officer, you're not mistaken. I am Captain America.
Sure, there are lots of comics and comic collectors at the comic convention.
I couldn't make out prices
there.
there.
Collection of comic characters in every aisle.
Look at these prices. Is it possible? I think not. And you might just overhear a conversation like this one.
Polanski, his wife.
Well, Polanski shot it, but I mean...
He's in it too. Her husband.
Oh, he's the old man.
He's the hunchback. He's the hunchback.
He's the hunchback.
Right.
That's
well, who played the guy?
Ferdy Mayne, the same guy that's in House That Dripped Blood.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Meyer, yes, is as an investment. I mean, there are other things that have gone up, and we know most of this really is in the collectibles and, of course, antiques, paintings, obviously. But comic books are way, way up there as far as like original cost to what they are valued at today. There's almost nothing that compares. Any Wall Street stocks, they aren't worth shit. It is, you might compare it, for instance, to Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is just this weird nebulous series of zeros and ones that doesn't really have any value anyways. I mean, it's like, it's not even there. It's something that people ascribe value to. So the fact that it's like worth $14 in 2012 and now it's 20 grand for a Bitcoin. Okay, that's astounding, but it's just astounding that people are fucking paying for it, you know? With comic books, yes, there's an incredible value, obviously, because Action Comics, which we're getting to, wait until you see the Action Comics, it's going to blow your mind. The value of the comics is the fact that each year they get rarer and rarer because available comics are gone. They're also disintegrating. They don't, you know, they're comic books, for Christ's sake. They were made of newspaper print. So in that very high end, and when I say like high end dealing range with comics now, where, you know, comics are selling for 50, 100 grand, 500 grand, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million each. Those comics, obviously, the people are keeping them in some hermetically sealed fashion. I would imagine, like in rooms that they build just for, you know, the comics. So it's perfectly climate controlled, all of this shit. Yeah, because it's insane. You know, you could go back to 1940. Yeah, sure. That's, what is that, 83 years ago? A kid paid a dime for a comic book. It sells for $2 million now. That appreciation is astronomical in any sense of the word. It is just hard to even fathom. And once again, investors, Wall Street investors would go, yeah, invest in that. Don't be an idiot. Well, okay, you could put your money into gold and get a little bit of payoff each year, but good Lord. Okay, back to it.
Comics aren't the only collectibles here either. Old horror and monster movie videos and memorabilia are the most valuable stuff now.
Well, see, these were bought by kids in the 60s, and, you know, they weren't really experienced painters.
So that's not really an albino Frankenstein.
No, that's just the way the kid did it.
All of the stuff that my mother made me throw away or wouldn't let me have in the first place would be really valuable now?
That's right. That's correct. You bet.
They just don't make comics like these anymore. Great.
Amazing. God, amazing adult fantasy. This is a 1991 convention. That looks really quite nice too. God.
Stuff to show the kids.
Britano Haleen is here for the comics, though.
This is the first time I've come to a comic book convention. I've been like collecting in the closet, you know, just whenever I would run into stuff. But now, all in one spot, it's a little overwhelming. I really love it.
And like father, like son.
Cool.
Way cool.
Yeah.
Few collectors can afford or even want the $40,000 rarities. Most of them just love comics.
I love reading comic books because they keep you young, they keep you with a sense of wonder about the world. And nowadays, we need that more than ever before.
Do you remember that practical joker from the fifth dimension that gave Superman so much trouble, Mr. Mixus-Pitalik? Well, Superman had to trick him into saying his name backwards to get rid of him. Saunders backwards is Srednous. Well, it worked. Chris Saunders, News 8, the fifth dimension.
It's $1,300. This is a
Woo! There we go. 1996 Mystic Comics number 6 with the Destroyer. Now the Destroyer was just awesome. What a great, I think Eric, I'm sure you're familiar with the Destroyer. Awesome 1940s character. I love that costume. That is just like one of the most wicked freaking superhero costumes I've ever seen. Why he hasn't been revamped, I don't know. But the Destroyer was just some of the great covers back in that period was definitely the Destroyer was on them. Mystic Comics, folks. And that is a beauty. It looks like, I mean, some of these things just truly look pretty much mint. You know what I'm saying? Holy crap.
Marvel comic.
Yeah, this isn't that long ago either. We're talking 27 years ago, something like that. God.
40s, first appearance of this character. This is a Donald Duck, also from the 40s, one of the famous Donald Duck covers.
We are a long way from Donald Duck. There are these digital comics, these video comics, and these, the Verotica comics, which have caused arrests in at least one state.
Erotica, horror, and violence is a lot of what we do.
You grew up in the comic.
Yes, that girl speaks the truth. And she looks hot saying it, too.
These video comics, and these, the Verotica comics, which have caused arrests in at least one state.
Erotica, horror, and violence is a lot of what we do.
Woohoo! Then now, this is 1996, folks. Here comes Verotica. As you know, it's the Misfits guy. I don't know. I forget his fucking name now. I just blew a fucking and Dave Stevens did some of those covers. I wonder if they're going to show them. Well, they can't really show them that much.
But there are people who believe there's too much sex and violence in comics these days. The exhibitor.
There it is. There we go. Right there. That's a Dave Stevens cover for the what the hell was the guy's name? Lead singer for the Misfits. He ran these. It's all his comic book line, the Verotica stuff. But that's a Dave Stevens cover right there. Censored.
Here felt compelled to fly in the head of the National ACLU to discuss First Amendment rights this Independence Day weekend.
We still have a perception of comic book medium being just for children, whereas globally and internationally, it's an adult medium as well. I think the comics industry would rather regulate itself than have itself regulated, and there's a pretty good movement to do that.
The comic industry, in fact, has its own legal defense fund.
We've had a couple of cases this year throughout the United States that have just raised a lot of questions within the industry about what our rights exactly are.
Like the music industry, television, publishing before. They say they want to protect artistic freedom. What do you make of all this?
Well, I like seeing all the different stuff here because I think it's really cool that they can do this and just have this whole area filled with comics and cool stuff.
This is girly comics.
It is?
That's one of the great. Yes, Meyer. Glenn Danzig. Thank you, sir. Danzig. Yes. Thank you, Chad. Chop 5. Thank you, sir. Yeah, is that a classic right there? They got the kid. They're interviewing the kid in front of the adult comic section. And he. That would be me. I swear to God. Oh, really? It's the adult comic section? It is so beautiful. It's just even the 1996, the shit's just freewheeling and hilarious. And the Comic Book Defense Fund. As a matter of fact, I've got one of their comic books. You know, they would get all these artists to do, you know, stuff for a comic book, which would benefit the Comic Book Defense Fund. Really cool, actually, you know, a great idea, of course, because God, you imagine, I mean, you had the underground comics that's already from the late 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was only, you know, a matter of time before some of that adult stuff would get into the mainstream, which Veronica, Glenn Danzig's line of comic books, and others. That is just great. It's just fantastic. Let me get to the chat, guys. I'm going to put it on pause for a second. We still got a third of the way to go, and it gets really good. Wait until you see some of the shit coming up. Even going towards the year 2000. Holy Toledo. I've missed some stuff, though. Michael Taylor says, I could watch stuff like this for hours. Yeah, it's just fascinating. It's an incredible history, and I totally congratulate Channel 8 News in San Diego for putting this together. It's kind of like a documentary of sorts. I mean, certainly it documents this timeline that's approximately almost like keeps it. I mean, I don't know, you know, some of you guys, look, you know, as I said, I started attending conventions when I was 16, 1978. And so this is like, it starts like basically almost when I started, just like several years before I started going to conventions, but it follows through. So watching this is just kind of like things, you know, the memory, it kind of jogs the memory. And it's just fantastic seeing this footage. And most of this video is just really good too, like very well done. Kudos to Channel 8 in San Diego. Fantastic. Chat 5 says, I'm going to a small-scale comic convention tomorrow, Bell County Comic Con. Excellent. Where's Bell County? That no pun intended, it rings a bell, but I'm not quite sure what state that's in. Michael Taylor, I'm loving this, Mike. Thank you. I'm glad you're digging this, Michael Taylor. I am digging the hell out of it, too. Eric says, yeah, that costume and design for the Destroyer was great. I admit not being that familiar with him, but he looks awesome. Yeah, as far as like, I don't know if I've ever read a story with the Destroyer, but I've seen those comic books. And I mean, every time I see one of those comic books, and this has been for years, they're insanely priced. I mean, they're thousands of dollars. God knows what the hell they're going for now. You know, you know, who knows, man. Chad is on the scene. Hello, Chad. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Meyer says 96. This is right before anime, manga, and girls dressed like Pikachu shows up. Yes, exactly. So it is kind of weird. You know, I'm not trying to say there's some weird barrier with centuries, but I swear to God, once you hit the 21st century, things change drastically. Really, they do in the entire convention scene. Whether or not it's comic book conventions, science fiction conventions, you name it, they just changed. And it had a lot to do, of course, with the internet, the digital age, you know, the late 90s, all that shit that went into the 2000s, and a lot of stuff just changed. Hollywood became a huge factor. You know, at this point, they're barely even there. 1996, people love the movies, but Hollywood is not all over the fucking place. Like they really started going nuts in the 2000s. That's really when it had the early 2000s. Hollywood just sunk their teeth into the conventions. Eric says, too bad the CBLD has done little, if anything, to fight cancel culture for creators. I know, for creators. You're right, Eric. You're absolutely right. I think that that's something that, it's one of those things, you know how that goes. They were great back in the day, but suddenly with a little bit of change of politics, they're not so eager. You know what I'm saying? And that's a shame, because they should be fighting First Amendment for everybody, the left and the right, and the people in the middle and the people from Venus, whatever. But they should equally be, trying to serve the interests of all artists. And they don't. And we know why. Okay. Eric says, so the kid looks, good job, interviewer. Yeah, it's just beautiful. That is just such a great, it's one of those scenes, it's just fantastic. Yeah, you got to love that kid's reaction. Absolutely. It is just freaking awesome. Belton, Texas. Thank you, sir. Only a $50 entrance fee, way cheaper than San Diego. Yeah, God. That is true. In any case, guys, let's continue on with this. Okay, and you're going to see a couple of things coming up that might just blow your mind.
Like other stuff, I just walk right through. I kind of just pulled them through. Even on this section over here also.
Convention organizers say they put the really adult stuff out of view of the kids. This is what they could see.
Oh, that's nasty.
And it's far, far different from the monster, creepy kid stuff comics used to be. Carol Hassan.
Now, that's interesting right there, folks. Very interesting. Now, this is granted, it's 1996, but you see that copy of Creepy for $45. And it's hard to say. It looks like it's in very, very, maybe fine condition, maybe better. But you could pick up a copy of Creepy, in very fine shape now for $100. So, yeah, price is about doubled in 27 years. Not nearly what comic books have done in prices. And it's because Warren, those magazines, I think they printed 1 billion of them. As a matter of fact, there's constantly warehouse finds of Warren stuff, whether it's, magazines like the Creepy, Eerie, Vampirellas, Famous Monsters. They find a warehouse. There's like, I don't know what the fuck where these warehouses come from, but suddenly there's like boxes of, thousands of Warren magazines or posters. I've seen warehouse finds of like Uncle Creepy posters. I think there's still some for sale on eBay, like the original Uncle Creepy poster, San Julian, I believe, artist, for $30, $35, because they find like 1,000 of them, right? So in the newer printings, like when you especially get into the 60s and 70s with the magazines, I'm assuming that it was just a much higher print rate. And then, of course, there was the whole thing. Warren fell into bankruptcy. There was a huge auction. If you check out my video on the Warren Empire, the Empire of Monsters, that I just did a few days ago, in 1983, there was a massive auction because he went into bankruptcy. And they literally sold off tens of thousands of pieces of original artwork and magazines for insane prices. Harris Publications, they picked it all up, and they picked up the rights. That's why Harris started publishing stuff from the, that was originally from the Warren Publications, because they bought the rights to a ton of the stuff, with this auction. So that's one of the reasons why these Creepy and Eerie's and stuff just aren't, they're not that sought after, except for Erie #1, the Ash Can Edition. Oh yes, now you're going to pay a few grand for that, no doubt.
KFMB News 8.
Comic-Con was moving into its 30s by Y2K, and it had spawned a huge worldwide fan base. And the action had outgrown the convention center, with tens of thousands of visitors to San Diego filling streets, bars, hotels, and restaurants in the gas lamp. The money was flowing in, and instead of 3 days, Comic-Con was a 5-day event, bringing millions and millions of dollars into San Diego's economy.
Hi, caramba, it's Bart Simpson. Spawn.
Hi, Spawn.
Batman. At the 31st Comic-Con, you never know who you'll see next.
I am a futuristic Jedi.
Harley Quinn.
The Joker.
With thousands of comic books, trading cards, and action figures, even Superman's here to add to his collection.
G.I. Joe, Transformers, me.
Think comics, and you probably think kids. But this event isn't child's play. Just ask Bonnie Strickland.
There is an incredible amount of creativity in a place like this. And it's just a lot of fun, and it's interesting.
Interesting and expensive. Comic books may have been cheap when we were kids, but some of this stuff now, much more than a week.
Now, is that guy reading Detective Comics #1? I got to see that.
Just ask
I'm
Bonnie
going to go
Strickland.
back there.
There is an incredible amount of creativity in a place like this. And it's just a lot of fun, and it's interesting.
Interesting and expensive. Comic.
What is that Detective Comics #1, folks? He's just casually looking through it. I mean, this is the year 2000, but that is freaking insane. I mean, just go to a convention now, or in the last several years even. You're not just going to be casually rifling through Detective Comics. Oh, that's number 27. Or even, yeah. Now, that's the first appearance of Batman, isn't it? Or the first Batman cover on Detective Comics. Is that how it went? I don't think you're just going to be rifling through issue number 27 of Detective Comics. Jesus Christ, that's insane.
Books may have been cheap when we were kids, but some of this stuff now, much more than a week's allowance.
Superhero that started all, Superman. His first appearance, worth about 40.
Yeah, Eric, it could be, but I don't think so. I think that it's still, look, it's the year 2000. I still think people are, they've got them bagged and boarded, but they're allowing people. Now, this is at Metropolis. Notice, check this out. You will see the label up here, Metropolis Comics, New York. Now, Metropolis Collectibles, Vincent Zerzolo, he's one of the guys I interviewed. I went to New York City to interview him and Everett Raymond Kinsler, the incredible artist who worked for Avon Comics. And he's still got at least one copy of Action Comics #1 on his wall in the office. Really incredible. But here they are selling a copy. Check this out.
You were right last time. $40,000. $40,000.
How many of these do you think are out there?
I'd say approximately 100.
With that kind of money involved, you might think about spreading your wings.
Okay, did he say that?
And expensive. Comic books may have been cheap when we were kids, but some of this stuff now, much more than a week's allowance.
Superhero that started all, Superman. His first appearance, worth about 40,000.
I can't tell the grade on that, but it's hard to say. It's hard to say, folks. Just looking at it, it's got to be fine. It's got to be fine condition. Yeah. $40,000, folks. In 2000, that's going to run you about 800,000 now. Okay, maybe even more. But in the year 2000, if you had 40 grand, you could pick up a copy of Action Comics in fine condition or very fine from the looks of it for 40,000 from Metropolis Comics, which would yield at least 800 grand, maybe $1 million today in today's market. Still an insane return on investment. Just incredible.
You were right last time. $40,000.
$40,000.
How many of these do you think are out there?
I'd say approximately 100.
With that kind of...
And I think he's wrong. Okay? I think he's absolutely wrong. I don't know where they come up with this figure of, oh, I think there's 100 out there. I think there's more that people have not discovered. They're simply in boxes. They're buried in somebody's, basement or hidden in an attic. I mean, there probably aren't many more, but I would say that there are well more than 100. They just have not been discovered. Like many, many comics that are sought after.
Money involved, you might think about spreading your wings and giving comic book writing a try. So we went to an expert for advice.
Usually late night conversations.
Eric says that like button could use some more smashing. Yes, please, folks. Please hit the like button. It helps with the algorithmic crapola and helps get the video out there. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Eric, for that post.
Working along on insane hours, produced some pretty interesting ideas after a while.
So lack of sleep equals good comics.
Lack of sleep equals good comics sometimes.
Just the line to get into the convention center today told the story.
Okay, this is 2005.
Comic-Con is a pretty popular event. Inside, Star Wars and Harry Potter were obvious.
Okay, this is kind of where it starts going south, folks. I just don't really. I don't. Let me. I'm gonna take it off of there because that's really killing me. It gets totally Hollywood. Okay, now I will go ahead with the rest of this video, which is like 10 minutes more. But it's a lot of Harry Potter and a lot of freaking Hollywood movies and stuff because that's what happened to Comic-Con. So let me know in the chat, Y for yes, go ahead, or N for no, stop. Let me know. Okay. we got a split 50-50. Eric with the yes, Michael Taylor with the no. Come on, guys. Yeah, Meyer says keep going. It's like an Atta. Okay, we got 3 yes, 1 no. Well, that looks like it. It looks like the yays have it. There we go.
And expensive. Comic books may have been cheap when we were kids, but some of this stuff now.
Inside, Star Wars, and the turnout this year may be even bigger. People just pull money, credit cards.
Oh yeah, half the time they're like, they walk through a line, buy it, and they're like, what did I just buy? They're just like, what am I getting?
The Hot Wheels display turned some heads, and people sat for hours trading Wizards of the Coast playing cards. But nobody, I mean nobody, could pass up the opportunity for a photo op with Darth Vader.
You like the bad guys? Yeah, the bad guys. Like the Republic, so.
I've never seen a Darth Vader so tall either, so.
Yeah, he's tall.
He is very tall.
Mark Prescott, Local 8 News.
Oh boy.
Along with the craziness and camaraderie of Comic-Con.
Hang out, nerd out, be with like-minded folk, buy things.
The 5-day convention means serious business for San Diego.
It brings so much revenue to the town, the hotels, to the bars, everything fills up. So it does really well for the city.
And business this year was booming from Wednesday's preview night onward. Thousands of fans filling bars, restaurants, hotels, and stores throughout the area. Comic-Con.
Hang out, nerd out, be with like-minded folk,
buy things.
The 5-day convention means serious business for San Diego.
It brings so much revenue to the town, the hotels, to the bars, everything fills up. So it does really well for the city.
And business this year was booming from Wednesday's preview night onward.
Woo!
Thousands of fans filling bars,
Hot
restaurants,
femme
hotels,
fatales
and
right
stores
there.
throughout the area.
2.5 times the business.
I think that's saying 2010 up there. I believe.
At least huge numbers on Friday and Saturday night.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even throughout today. It's been really busy all day and all night.
Comic-Con this year drew an estimated 126,000 people, some 2/3 of whom are from out of town, like Michael Carter and his crew.
I was probably spending about $2,000 actually, yeah.
And that's not just on comic books and costumes.
A suite at the Hard Rock, restaurants every night, hotels, any accessory Comic-Cons, whatever comes my way I spend on.
In fact, Comic-Con brings in tens of millions of dollars to the local economy every year, according to the convention center.
And I feel like it's grown every single year. So this year is definitely one of the biggest I've seen.
And despite the soft economy, many Comic-Con consumers are decidedly not shy about spending.
They plan for it all year, so they're ready to spend.
I definitely didn't feel the recession this weekend.
But some business owners are feeling nervous at the prospect of Comic-Con possibly leaving San Diego after its contract runs out in 2012.
It's really amazing what this convention does for us. We need to keep it here.
By the last decade, Comic-Con had become a staple for the entertainment industry. It drew Hollywood studios and stars to promote their movies to adoring fans. Those fans would line up for hours upon hours, all for the chance to get into one of the con's famous panels and maybe, just maybe, get the chance to ask one of those stars a question.
Okay, that's it, folks. I can't take any more of this. Sorry. I'm going to drop the link for you. Hold on. Oh, crap. That's not it. Ah, library. Fucking what the hell, man? Where is it? Oh, there it is. God. Okay, folks, I just put the link to the full video in the chat. So there is the video on YouTube. You can watch it, rewind it, go to your favorite places in the video. But once again, tremendous thanks to the local affiliate San Diego station Channel 8 for putting this together, because I mean, it at least, 25 minutes of it is absolutely gold. It's just fantastic looking through the years of San Diego Comic-Con. It's just it's a sight to behold, really, It's great, man. Ah, there you go. That's a nice setting right there. Yeah, folks. Okay, let me get back to the chat. I'm gonna take that out and I'm gonna put this in. So we have a little visual from back in the day. Oh yes, the 70s, 1970s. There's Darth hanging out with a friend poolside at a convention. As I said, probably San Diego Comic-Con, I would imagine, mid-70s. 76, 77, somewhere in there. That is just classic. Yo, Gotham City is on the scene. Hello, Gotham City Comics. How are you doing? Good to see you. Eric said, that's why I want to continue. Hello, nurse. Chow 5 says, and didn't the original Star Wars get shown at Comic-Con back in the 70s? Probably. You're probably right. You know, and for good reason. I mean, look, it was always films, you know, science fiction, fantasy, and horror films were always a part of the Comic-Cons. You know, whether or not it was San Diego or New York or, you know, in the Midwest, the South, whatever, it didn't matter. They were always part of it. But with the Comic-Cons, of course, up to a certain point, and as we just witnessed, you know, up to the year 2000, for about 30 years, Comic-Cons were about comic books and comic book artists primarily. And the film stuff was just there, and people loved it, and they loved Star Wars and all the science fiction films, Logan's Run and all that stuff, Conan, as we saw in the video. It wasn't until Hollywood sunk its teeth into the whole marketing process in the 2000s that it just changed drastically, you know, and absolutely not my scene. God, no. Eric says, oh, damn roller derby chicks. Yes. Meyer says they tactically nuked our hobby. Yeah, that is basically what happened with that in the freaking 2000s. Eric says, First Man on Mars Blu-ray can be purchased on Amazon. Yes, it can. Thank you, Eric, for plugging that. My friends, that is my film, First Man on Mars. It is on Blu-ray. And without further ado, let's just take a look at
the countdown to terror has begun.
The signal's getting stronger now. It won't be long.
Come quick! The countdown to terror has begun.
The signal's getting stronger now. It won't be long.
Come quick! The monster done ate my pappy!
Do you really think this was a bear duck?
Highly unlikely. First Man on Mars. Once he was human.
There's something shiny in the rock. This is really starting to sting.
Now a bloodthirsty monster, killing and devouring the young. And not so innocent.
Let's take a look at this, huh?
I'm gonna blast the thing back to hell.
Oh, shit.
First Man on Mars.
You mean there's aliens out here? Shit, I don't want to get ducted and anal.
This film is not rated.
There we go, folks. I just also dropped a link to my website, horroranthologymovies.com, in the chat. You can go there to check out all of my films, including First Man on Mars, Horror Anthology Movie Volume 1, and Witch Tales, the perfect Halloween film that actually takes place during Halloween. Yes. So it's a great Halloween film. If you're in the mood, we have officially, in my opinion, stepped into the Twilight Zone. No, the Halloween season. You know, I mean, that's August, September, man. It's you go to the stores. I've already seen the stuff being laid out at a few different stores. They're already doing the Halloween stuff, which is great, obviously, because it's my favorite time of the year. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I dig the Halloween season. And you will dig Witch Tales or Horror Anthology Movie or First Man on Mars, because they're all they're all horror. Some are a bit sci-fi and some are a little bit comedy. But check it out, horroranthologymovies.com. Oh, yes. Eric says had to be 77 or after Star Wars debuted in 77. So yeah, 77, 78. I mean, that's definitely, it wasn't marked, but that's a 70s photo. Gotta be, man. You know, late 70s. It's so classic. It's just perfect. This, as I said before, going to conventions back at this time and into the 80s, you would see scenes like this all the time. You know, people hanging out in costume, you know, just shooting the shit, poolside, very casual and really hilarious. Meyer says they would have shown Hardware Wars and Bambi Meets Godzilla. You're absolutely right, Meyer. Both of those. Of course, Ernie Fossilius, who not only made Hardware Wars, of course, fantastic Super 8 film, highly recommended, but also Pork Lips Now, the takeoff on Apocalypse Now, both of which you can find on YouTube, folks. They're hysterical. Ernie Fossilius is just a great parody filmmaker. Love the guy. And Bambi Meets Godzilla. I'm sure that's on YouTube. It's only like a minute long. And it is hysterical. I remember seeing that during conventions too. They would show that back in the day. Very popular. Chad says Star Wars versus Star Trek fans were hilarious before the internet. Agreed, Chad. That's absolutely was always a big thing. I mean, still I see people, of course, the tribalism, taking the sides and all that shit. But back in the day, yeah, there was that, I mean, Star Trek was freaking huge in the 1970s. I remember going to the first Star Trek convention in Los Angeles with William Shatner, of course, as the main star, the main event. There were some other Star Trek original series actors there. But this had to be 1978, late 70s, once again, 79 could have been. But it was packed, 10,000 people in this freaking place in Los Angeles. And at that time, 10,000 people eclipsed the San Diego Comic-Con. It was freaking huge, just incredible. Just incredible, man. I also have to tell you, I went to WhoCon #1. Once again, this was late 70s in Los Angeles. Jesus Christ, Tom Baker was the guest of honor. And we were waiting. This was like a convention, maybe 500 people were there. This was WhoCon #1 in Los Angeles. So we're all waiting in this kind of ballroom. And I was pretty close to the front. And I remember waiting everybody was waiting for like 2 or 3 hours. Tom Baker was late. He had missed his flight, got another flight, came in, and he walks in holding what's left of a Bloody Mary. And the guy's obviously had a few. And he was hilarious. He got up there, of course, he, made jokes about his tardiness and all this shit. And he's got the freaking celery stalks in the glass. And it was great. It was fantastic, seeing Tom Baker. Another one of my idols, I guess, back in the late 70s, along with, of course, Carolyn Monroe. Good Lord. I've shown you that picture. I did get a photo with Carolyn Monroe. Back in 1978, I believe it was, the Pittsburgh Science Fiction Festival. Crazy. In any case, let's take a look here. Eating nachos through a stormtrooper mask. Yes, I'm sure that happened many a time. Michael Taylor, yes, still love Halloween to this day. So many great memories of Halloween growing up. Yeah, fantastic. And what a great time for conventions. It's always been a great time for science fiction, horror, fantasy conventions. October and November, huge time because the weather is awesome. People are into it. It's just a perfect timing. Michael Taylor says, I went to a few Star Trek cons in the 80s. Yeah, they were just red hot, 70s through the 80s. Maybe into the 90s. I don't know, but they were absolutely gigantic. It became, the whole Star Trek thing was just an insane phenomenon. It really was. And of course, Star Wars became that, but yeah, so you have that rivalry. Eric says, speaking of Star Wars fans versus Star Trek, if you've never seen this clip from Conan O'Brien and Triumph the Insult Dog, please do. Here, let's take a look. Maybe I can I get that damn thing? How can I? Hey, can you send that in the private chat? Maybe I can just find it. It's that shit. I don't know. What is it called, Eric? What is the exact video called? Because I'm looking at it right now. I've got late night Triumph at the Star Wars premiere. Triumph attends the premiere of Star Wars Attack of the Clones with Conan O'Brien. Triumph at San Diego Comic-Con 2008. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. Star Wars outtakes? You're probably right. I don't know, folks. Check it out. I'll probably get a copyright. I'm probably already copyright struck on this thing. Michael Taylor, great story at Baker. Yeah, he was a really cool dude too. Very funny, obviously very relaxed when I saw him, because he definitely had more than a few Bloody Marys. I imagine the guy's like, he misses his flight, delays. He's trying to get here. I'm assuming he flew in from the East Coast or from England to go to the, to be the first guest at the inaugural WhoCon 1 in Los Angeles. And it was just kind of a bit of a screw up. And fortunately, he made it. But he was hilarious, man. He was. It was just totally informal. As I say, 500 people there, Meyer Greenblatt says, the guy on the right with the blaster is wearing Playtex living gloves. Yeah. Keep it low budget. I mean, you got to do it. You got to do that low budget. Eric says, just that photo of you and Carolyn Monroe, horror, my color me jelly. Yeah, that was definitely it was Eric, that was one of my teenage thrills. Let's just put it that way. Now, which one is going to shoot first? Yeah. That is true. Probably would get a copyright strike. I would not doubt that, Eric. Meyer says these are like the Earl equivalent of Mexican knockoff Star Wars toys characters. Yes, exactly. Triumph attends the premiere of Attack of the Clones. Okay, although I'm you guys check that out if you want to see Triumph just shredding Star Wars and Star Trek as in his usual fashion. Check that out. Apologies, I didn't intend to detract the stream. No, it's on point. You know, we're talking about conventions. As a matter of fact, I just noticed there's one where Triumph goes to the San Diego Comic-Con in 2008, which I'm going to have to watch. He attends the convention. Oh my God. That has just got to be totally awesome. All right, folks, there is one more thing I got to show you guys. Actually, there's a couple of things. You got to check this out. All right, let me just get this sucker on here because it's rather important. Okay, let's see here. Now, you guys remember this? There we go. We were looking at Suspense Comics, right? Last week. And so, and I was saying instantly, the one on the right here, as Meyer said, the Bohemian Grove cover, which is just spectacular. And that, of course, is by Alex Schomburg. Suspense Comics, 1945, you know? Let me see if I can get this, get him a little, yeah, here we go. There we go. That's better for you. Ah, shit. Why is it not? Oh, fuck. I fucked up. There we go. That is Suspense Comics. Number 8, right? I believe. Now, let me show you a shocker. So what I was saying, I was talking about this comic is a holy grail. It is one of those comic books that you never hear people talking about the Suspense Comics. This particular issue, there's issues 3 and 8 in particular. I believe this is issue 8, and this one with the LB Cole cover. Oh, no, I got him fucked up. This is issue number 8 with the amazing LB Cole cover. Holy crap. And issue number 3 right here. Yeah. Suspense Comics number 3 with the Alex Schomburg cover. Okay, folks, get ready for a shocker. All right. Let's go to Go Collect. And here we got the Suspense Comics. Now, of course, Suspense Comics number 1, 1943. Yeah, that's going to be a sought after. I don't know. It might be a holy grail. I don't know. But let's go to, here we go, Suspense Comics number 3. Let's click on this, shall we? April 10th, 1944. It says page count 60 pages. Artists Alex Schomburg, L.B. Cole, Jack Alderman. God, I mean, come on, man. There you go. 1944. Holy crap. What's it worth? Now, keep in mind, these are CGC. 2006, an 8.0 sold for $47,000, $47,800 in 2006. In 2013, a 6.0 sold for $24,700. That's holy grail. Okay, that's when you're getting up into the stratosphere of comic books, and people don't even know about this. You go, hey, how do you like suspense comics? They're like, what the hell are you talking about? They're not even known. I mean, you know, and unless you're talking about hardcore golden age collectors, this isn't like Action #1 or, you know, Fantastic Four #1 or some holy grail, the Hulk #1, you know, shit. Or issues of more fun comics, especially with the Spectre, you know. But that's really astounding. That is a 2006, $47,000. Whew. God. Okay, here we go. Now, this one, I can tell you that it's an L.B. Cole cover, and he used that for, I think, an issue of Mask Comics as well. It's this devil. It's a version of this devil costume. And that is just beautiful. Suspense Comics #11. Gorgeous cover. I mean, you know, June 10th, 1946, 52 pages. They gave you a lot for your dime, folks. Back in 1946, 52 pages once again. Now, this one, on the other hand, 2016, 9.0, sold for only $4,541. So that's not a holy grail. It's a fantastic cover, you know, but obviously there are more of these that exist, I would assume. They don't really say. It says there's a total of 53 sales involved. You know, God, 2003, $1,840 for an 8.0. 6.0 in 2020 sold for $2,400, which is, I mean, it's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of moolah for a comic book. It's nowhere near the Suspense #3 that I just showed you. Nor is it, let's see, here we go. Suspense #8 with the incredible L.B. Cole cover. Just, you know, I don't know, just mind-boggling when you look at it and think, okay, that's 1945, and that's a cover to a comic book in 1945. Okay. And so in any case, let's just take a look-see. Well, here's a 9.2. Now that's near mint. Basically, that's just getting in that near mint range. Sold 2021 for $60,000. You know, I mean, look, I'm not valuing comics by what they sell for. I'm just trying to say that this, it's a holy grail comic. It's one of those comic books that it doesn't come along very often. And when it does, and it's in a high grade, expect to, you know, pay an arm and a leg. No doubt. Maybe 2 legs, maybe both arms and legs. Yeah, because 60 grand is way up in the stratosphere, okay, for comic books. Think about it, you know. I mean, there's a few Marvel comics that would go up to that, obviously, and some timely, obviously 1940s. I don't know if there's a pre-code horror comic that is sold for that amount. Keep in mind, suspense, this is not pre-code horror. This is like a combination of action, adventure, crime, and horror stuff. So it was, predated the horror run from 1949 to 1955 in the pre-code era. And people just don't know about them. It's just like suspense comics. What the hell is that? But I mean, these covers are just wow, absolutely fantastic. And Maurice Gutworth is an artist in this issue. I'd love to see this. Bob Fujitani is an artist, Tony DiPreta, and of course L.B. Cole. I would love to see. This is something, of course, it's now available on Bud's Art Books and facsimile. Man, I may have to get it. I may have to get this one and the other one just to see. I've never seen inside one of these. I don't know about you guys, Now here, on the other hand, 4.0 in the year 2022 sold for $3,960. Of course, there's a tremendous leap from 4.0 to 9.2, as we see with any comic book, obviously. But that is just a beauty. God, So there's something, folks. It's like suspense comics. You don't hear a lot of talk about them. There's not a lot of chatter, And some of these you can pick up pretty reasonably. Let's take a look at issue number 1. I love this cover for issue number 1. Let's see if we can blow it up. There we go. Check out that cover. You got a bunch of cultists. Once again, it's kind of a Bohemian Grove kind of situation there. It says the cover is by C.M. Quinlan. Never heard of the artist. Not familiar with them. But once again, you got these weird-looking cultists. You got a woman. Of course, it's a bondage scene. She's tied to a slab. This guy's got a poker, apparently a red-hot poker, and it's a swastika poker. So he's about to burn her with a swastika. There's this giant devil statue in the background. That is just wicked. And of course, there's the guy ready to leap into action right there. So let's take a look at the prices, shall we? This is issue number 1 from November 30th, 1943. Imagine seeing this. You're walking, on the newsstand, folks. 1943, you're like, hey, Mom, can I get this issue? It's only 10 cents. 10 cents. That's a week's rent. No, I don't know. In any case, yeah, I could just imagine kids seeing this on the news. I would scoop this up in about 2 seconds. So let's take a look. Yeah, so you got a 9.0 sold in 2006 for $9,560. And it's a lot of money. And that was 2006. Fair market value for a 2.0, they're saying, is $2,800. So it's up there. It's a pricey comic book. It's nowhere near issues number 3 and 8, but it's a pricey comic book, and it's beautiful. The art, man. I would love. Why doesn't PS Art Books put out a whole volume of suspense comics? I would buy that. I would pay the $40 to get all issues, like issues 1 through 10 or whatever the hell. That would be fantastic. In any case, folks, I just wanted to point that out. To me, that is some of that is holy grail territory. And suspense comics is fantastic. So, In any case, that's it, folks. That's the presentation for tonight. I hope you enjoyed this look at some of the bygone era comic conventions. And let's see, where the hell is that great one? Oh, here we go. Yeah, these cuties right here. Put this on there. And there we go. Some femme fatales in costume from the 1980s, folks. If you haven't already, please give the show a like. Hit that like button and subscribe, perhaps, if you will. That would be fantastic. And let's take a look and back in the chat and see what we got going here before I split the scene. Meyer says summer hijinks issue. Yes. Yeah. I mean, God damn, those suspense comics are really, they're tempting. Those covers are fantastic. At least half of the covers are really good. Some of them are just like very typical crime comics covers. But some of them just kick royal butt. God. Meyer says, great show, Mike. Love the convention videos. Yeah, that stuff is fantastic. I put the link in the chat, guys. You may want to save that one to your collection because it's just a great part of comic book and comic book convention history. I just love it. Thank you, Michael Taylor. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it, you guys. So next week we're gonna get we'll cover some comic book stuff, but we will get heavily back into Tubi because by that time there's gonna be a whole buttload of new Tubi stuff. They've already dropped some stuff that's really great. I just noticed it yesterday, last night, and today when I was looking. So by next Friday, double your pleasure, double your fun in Tubi land is what I'm saying, folks. Eric says you can find suspense comic scans on Comic Book Plus. Not all the issues, but a few. Thank you for that reminder, Eric. I'm going to have to check that out. Maybe they've got stuff from issues 3 and 8 and issue 1. 1, 3, and 8 are the ones that really are amazing. And that devil one, too. I think that's issue number 11 with the devil costume. All those 4 issues just wow. In any case, folks, have a great weekend. Please hit the like and subscribe if you already haven't. And thank you for being here and checking out this look into the 20th century Comic-Con and comic book scene. It's been a blast. Check out the video. As I say, it's in the chat, the link to the Channel 8 video. Save it because it's real history, folks. It's amazing history. Eric says, please check out my channel as well and subscribe. Yes, folks, check out Eric's channel. It is awesome. He does live draw streams, and he does a lot of Golden Age stuff. And I suspect maybe in the future, there may be a destroyer coming down the pike. I don't know. That's one of those guys that it just kind of boggles my mind that nobody's picked up the destroyer. I'm amazed that a movie has not been made about the destroyer. That dude is just like kicking ass. I mean, at least from the covers I've seen, it's just a great character, Eric says, yes, number 1 is there. Awesome. Michael Taylor says, I subbed to Eric. Good show, Michael Taylor. Excellent. You will not regret it. Great draw stream channel. Eric says, great suggestion, Horror Mike. Yes. Well, that would be quite good. Thanks again, Michael Taylor. All right, guys, take care. Have a great weekend, and I will talk to you soon.